There's another way of looking at differences in the size of organisms. So viroids are the smallest of life-like things, that they're actually pathogens of plants, and they're so simple and small, they're not even viruses. They only consist of a couple hundred of bases of RNA, not even really big enough to encode genes, and in fact they don't encode genes. They're just naked RNA that somehow make plants sick and somehow replicate themselves in the process of doing so. The smallest of viruses are about 100-fold bigger. We have fairly large viruses that are 10-fold larger than that. And then we have some really big viruses that are getting into the size range of the smaller of the bacteria. Things like pox viruses, which causes smallpox, is a fairly large virus. And there are even bigger ones out there that infect protozoa, which are single-celled eukaryotic organisms. And so we've got the smaller bacteria about the same size, small bacteria going up 10, 100-fold bigger. 100-fold bigger than that, now we're into the realm of the red blood cells. 10-fold bigger than that, small protozoa. 10-fold bigger than that, we have a typical human cell. The egg cells are really big human cells. We talked about penocytosis and the problem that egg cells have in having a very large, actually very small surface to volume ratio. They've got a huge volume compared to their surface size, which makes it very difficult for them to feed themselves simply by things passing over the plasma membrane. And instead, they are fed by penocytosis, where they take little droplets of the nutrient medium around them into their cells so that the nutrients can move across the membranes found on the vesicles. So they can greatly increase the amount of membrane area over which they're feeding. And they have to do this because they're absolutely huge cells. They're too big to simply feed like a normal cell feeds. Then you can get really big. The largest of protists, single-celled organisms that are basically living as single compact organisms, are in the range of 1, 2, 3 millimeters in length, which is about that big. It's big enough that you really can see them with the naked eye. There are even bigger single-celled organisms. There are plant-sized, or at least algae-sized single-celled organisms. But of the things that can move around, these are the biggest. You even have some bacteria that can grow really big, in the range of a millimeter in length. Really big cell, the ostrich egg, big cell. Most of it is just nutrition for the what will be the growing embryo, but it's still a big cell. 10-fold bigger than the ostrich. I had to figure out something, and I came up with the Maine Coon cat, which can get up to about 25 pounds or more. 10-fold larger than that, we're talking about a relatively large human being, like myself. 10-fold larger than that, we're talking about a big cow-like thing. 10-fold larger than that, we're talking about an elephant, big elephant. 10-fold larger than that, we're talking about a blue whale. 10-fold larger than that, we're talking about a really big tree. So a giant sequoia, boy, this is now dated, is as big as 200 fully loaded H2 Hummers. And then we have these trees that grow as clones. So the new trees come up from their roots. And so you have these whole groves of aspen trees, which are collectively 10-fold even larger than these giant sequoias, or the size of about 2,000 H2 Hummers.